the continuous random variable homework. First question, I'm going through to one that's labelled as question 6. We've got a continuous random variable. We've got to give it to us in 2 different bits over here, and we're asked to sketch the graph to go with it. So if I just do that sketch over here, what are the values I'm interested in going along my x-axis? I'm not trying to do this to scale, but what? 0, half and 11, and I call that x. So up here will be f of x. Okay, which bit shall we do first? Let's do the 0 to a half. What sort of will the curve look like there? What sort of curve is it? It's a quadratic. Happy or sad? What's the value of the curve when x is 0? Okay, so it's going like that. Okay. What happens between a half and 11?
Straight line.
What sort of straight line?
Horizontal.
Horizontal line, yeah. So it's going straight across like that. Okay, and that is the 3 over 32. So, for that part of the question, there were 3 marks. If I look at the mark scheme that comes with this question, they've got 1 mark for a concave curve. So that's that bit of the curve there. And it's between those 2 points. So they clearly want it going through 0, 0 and a half, 3 over 2. So in other words, that bit of the curve there, as long as you show what these points are, gets you 1 mark. 1 mark for a horizontal straight line between there and there. And again, with coordinates able to be read off, even if it's just, from the sketch we've done there. The 3rd mark for correct axes. X going along there and f of x going up the side. So that was really a very nice 3-mark question. So part B, I've got to show the probability x is greater than 8 of a third. X is greater than 8 of a third equals a quarter. So I know what the answer is. How would I go about showing this? What sums do I need to do? What calculations do I need to do? And I'm going to ask first of all. Tom?
You can do just integrate between 8 and a third and 11 to 3 over 32, or just times 3 over 32 by
Okay, let's go with the first one.
2 and 2.
Because greater than 8 and a third is between 8 and a third and 11. So you're saying you can integrate your function. Now between 8 and a third and 11, the function is just 3 over 32. So you could just do that integral there. That's fine. That will give you the answer. I think you were coming up with an alternative as well, Tom.
Yeah, if you do 2 and 2/3 times 3 over 32.
2 and 2/3. So what you're saying here is 8 and 2/3 is at some point here. That's a rectangle. We know the height of that rectangle is 3 over 32. The width of that rectangle is the difference between these two, which is a number you said, which was
2 and 2/3.
2 and, oh, I've written that actually in 1/3 there, yeah. 2 and 2/3. So you could just times those together to get the area. Whichever way you do it, you should get the answer of a quarter. But they will want to see either that integral written down or that calculation there written down, which is the 2 and 2/3 times by 3 over 32. One of those has to be written down. And for that there are 2 marks, whichever way you do it. So if you do the integrating method, actually that's not shown here, but if you do the other way, anyway, 2 marks. You can split them how you like. 2 marks for that bit there for part 1. For part 2, probability x is greater than or equal to 3. Well, 3 is going to be somewhere here on the axis. So we could do it either as an integral. Richard, what would we be doing if we were integrating here?
Integrate between 11 and 3.
Yes, okay, 11 and 3, that's 3 over 32. That's one way. Or the other way is to look now at this rectangle here. The height is 3 over 32. The width is going to be 8. And if you multiply that together, that was the width times by the height. You should get 24 over 32, which is the same as 3/4, which is what you were expecting. Sorry you couldn't see that. If I go off the screen, please tell me. And there was 1 mark for that bit, 1 mark only for that bit. So that's a 3 mark to part B. Okay, part C of the question. hence write down the exact value of the interquartile range. So, interquartile range, going back to GCSE, what is the interquartile range? Anybody? Dan?
The upper quartile minus the lower quartile.
Yes, upper quartile minus the lower quartile. Some notations will call that Q3 and Q1. What is the upper quartile?
Yeah.
The upper quartile is 3/4 of the way
Oh,
across. So how much is above it? A quarter is above it. So upper quartile is 8 1/3, which I think is what people said a minute ago. The lower quartile will still have 3/4 above it. Lower quartile will be 3. Okay. Do that taking away, you get 5 1/3 for the interquartile range. Okay. And how many marks are there for that one? They've got 1 mark for just writing it down. Okay, but that was the logic behind it. Because you could tell from here what the upper and lower quartiles were. That was it for that bit. Next, the median.
I didn't even write anything.
For the median, what's the key thing for the median? The halfway point. So, if I sketch again, I've got something looking like this. That's 11, that was 0, that was a half. For my area of a half, I've got to find the median, which is going to be in this part, because I know it's not over here, because I know the area down there. This area here is going to be a half. So again, I know the height of this. The height of that is 3/32. So the area is the width times the height. The height I know is 3/32. The area I know has got to be a half. The width is the only thing I don't know. So if I rearrange that, if I do a half divided by 3/32, I will get the width. So that'll be a half times by 32/3. So that should come out to be 16/3, which is the same as 5 2/3. 5 2/3, sorry. 5 2/3. Okay, 17/3. Why have I got a 16 there?
No, it is 5 1/3 there, but you take that off of there.
Ah, so that's, sorry, that distance there, yeah, thank you very much. That distance there is 5 2/3. That's the width. Thank you very much, yeah. That's the width, it's 5 2/3. So the point M itself is 5 2/3 back from 11. Okay? So yeah, you've got to come back 5 2/3 from there, and that gives you the 5 1/3, which I was looking for. So that final little thing there. Marks for that one. There are 2 marks they have given for finding the median. Was there another part to the question that I gave you? Yes, D. The exact value. Now we know what the median is. The median we've said is 5 1/3. So we've got to find the probability that x is less than 5/5 1/3, given it's greater than 3. Let's just go back to the conditional probability formula. This has cropped up a couple of times this year. What's the probability of A given B?
Given that.
Yeah, okay, that's right. Okay, so that will be the probability that it's less than 5 1/3 and greater than or equal to 3. In other words, it's between the two of them, divided by the probability it's greater than or equal to 3. Well, we know greater than or equal to 3, that is 3/4. So that bit down there is 3/4. So we just got to do the top bit here, and you can work that out by using areas of rectangles. Has anybody got a final answer for that one? 1/3 is correct, yeah. They've got a quarter on the top, 3/4 on the bottom, and when you do the dividing, they've got 1/3. And there were 3 marks for that. There was 1 mark for getting that little bit there in that expression, and there are 3 marks there altogether, which means that's a 12-mark question altogether.